He's angry about mortgages. It's Angry Mortgage. He's swearing. He's cursing loud. He's old. He's opinionated. And he's been doing this so damn long. This program is about mortgages, and this is mortgage advice, but the advice may not apply to your situation. Contact licensed mortgage professionals for specific recommendations before you make decisions about mortgages. You may not agree with Ron, but if you don't, he thinks you're wrong. Oh, and did we say there is a lot of swearing?
All right, we're back.
We're back.
Now, maybe first thing, because I know how the viewers approach this. First thing is, why the fuck do you have suspenders on? Okay, that's number one. We're going to hear that number one. Well, you know, it's a funny story with suspenders. I mean, they were, 30 years ago, they were big.
Yeah.
Like it was a look, right? Like, especially in
fashion.
an office. Yeah, but especially in an office, right? Like in banks and, lawyers and stuff. It was a look, right? Everybody had suspenders. Totally got out of style. I'm tired of having to pull my pants up, so I decided to wear suspenders. But, what's interesting is every profession, even though they pretend they don't, every profession has kind of its own uniform. So on Wall Street, by the way, there's a whole movie called Wall Street where everybody wore suspenders, okay?
Right.
And no, you don't remember.
I'm familiar with The Wolf of Wall Street.
All right, he wore suspenders, right?
Yeah,
there were suspenders in that show because that was shows in the past, right?
Right.
All right, so good. So yes, then they all wore, back in these 90s, they all wore suspenders, right?
I'm imagining DiCaprio in them now.
And a lot of coke, okay?
A lot of
like
white
Wall
stuff.
Street was suspenders, nice ties, hookers, and blow, okay? That was Wall Street.
Sounds about
back
right.
30 years ago, all right?
Yeah.
Now, today it's all changed, okay? But still, there's maybe the blow hasn't changed, but I don't know. But
We're not
honestly,
assuming.
we can't make assumptions. You're right.
No, we're not.
But the reality is that today, especially they wear these Wall Street hotshots. They often wear Patagonia vests. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like the sort of quilted vests. Okay. Because somehow that caught on as the new version of cool. Because look, I'm athletic. Look, I'm always outdoors. I'm hiking. Look at me. I'm outdoorsy guy. Okay, fuck all that shit. I mean, what are you wearing this vest for? Fucking idiotic. Why are you wearing a Patagonia vest inside? Like you're in an office. Okay, what the fuck sense is that? You know what they call it now? Patagucci.
Patagucci.
Well, it costs a fucking fortune, this crazy Patagonia vest. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Fucking super expensive. So it's really Patagucci. It's all bullshit. But throughout every fashion exists. Sometimes it doesn't seem like it exists because it's sort of really down slope. Okay. But it exists. It exists for everything, right? It exists. Like hockey players have to look a certain way.
Of
right?
course. Yeah.
When the rules don't make, when they're off ice, right? When they're just going into their hotels, they all somewhat look about the same, right? I mean, they're
Comfortable.
Yeah. And basketball players all dress like chill, really chill, right? I mean, so there's all kinds of fashion and everything, even for men. Men pretend they don't have a fashion, but they do. Okay?
Yeah.
That's reality. All right, enough about fashion.
Fashion tips with Ron.
Not about fucking fashion, which seems
angry fashion.
Which seems fucking ridiculous that this fat fucking wad of goo is talking about fashion. But anyway, we'll drop that. That's stupid. You're right. I had to explain the suspenders, or I'm going to get there's a lot of commentary. Right? There'll still be commentary.
Yeah.
We can't escape it, but there will be too much. All right, so because we're just going to go into the first week of March. Okay. First full week of March. So March is traditionally the opening of what's referred to in Canada as the spring real estate market. Okay. It's March, April, May. Sort of the heart of it is probably end of March, April. And that's just traditionally, and by the way, you can statistically examine it. Like that is when, it's a bulge of house buying. If you look at there's not the same amount of houses bought every month. There's screw all bought really December, January, very, very low. February gets going, and then March, April, May, that's a big bulge of home purchases. Okay, many reasons for it. First of all, like in some parts of Canada, it's cold as balls in, January and part of February, and people like to go out and do open houses and stuff like that. But we're coming into the season, so we're going to talk about the problems and the possibilities of house buying, okay? Because that leads to mortgages, right? Typically, there's actually relatively few homes bought for cash, right? Like there are about 45% of all Canadian households have no mortgage, okay? That's important to understand. But that's a lot of stuff behind that. There's a bunch of 70-year-olds, and 80-year-olds, right?
Generational wealth, essentially.
Well, it seems like wealth because the house...
Real estate wealth.
Because the house went... Exactly, right. Yes, real estate wealth. Because the price of the fucking house went batshit crazy.
Yeah,
so
basically.
It was kind of an accident, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, it's accidental great wealth, okay? And there's also a bunch of reasons why, boomers don't leave their houses anymore. There's a lot of different reasons, but we'll cover them another day. But suffice it to say, but if you're buying a house, you're buying a house, particularly if you're a first-time buyer, you need a mortgage. So talking about buying houses fits into the idea of mortgages. Okay, so what do we see with first-time buyers? I mean, it's some of the ground we've covered before, but it really starts to hit home to me sometimes. We had a couple of things going on last week, a couple of different purchases I was looking at, and it really hit home to me that when I talk about young people, like people particularly under the age of 30, so I sort of classify young people as under 35. Is that fair?
Yeah. I think like the millennial group is from like we're 27 to like what 37-ish.
No, I think that's not millennials. Millennials are older than that, aren't they?
No, I'm the last of millennials.
You're the last millennial.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm the youngest millennial.
You're the youngest millennial.
I don't know what the oldest millennial. I think they're like 10 to 12 year gaps.
Yeah, they're usually 12 or 14 years.
So then they're like about 40, late 30s.
Okay.
Oldest ones.
Yeah,
So then I would say they're considered.
All right. Do you know what's between boomers and millennials? Is that like
Gen X?
Gen X.
Yeah.
Okay. I think everybody just forgets about those fuckers. I don't know why. I think I used to hear about them, but now the only thing I ever hear all the time is just boomer, millennial, boomer, millennial, boomer, millennial.
It's because we're boomer, millennial. We're the ones who are at war. So
yeah, we're at war. Absolutely, 100% at war. I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm trying to get more millennials to buy houses, but but still, I'm not fighting. But yes, it seems like a war. Mm-hmm. All right. So what do we observe? Because we had a couple of different files cross our desk in the office last week. And one really big thing that just jumps off the page is that particularly for anybody under 30, because, when I first got in the business all those, 3 decades ago, there's a lot of people in their late 20s bought houses, like lots.
Right.
Like it was a common thing. It was always 5% down, maybe 10. But there's a lot of people under the age of 30, don't get me wrong. They weren't under the age of 25, but they were mainly between 25 and 30. Bought their first home. And quite often it was a house or a semi or a townhouse. Because 30 years ago, there was not that many people buying condos.
Right.
I'll be honest with you.
There wasn't that many condos 30 years ago.
There wasn't that many condos 30 years ago. Yeah, good point. There wasn't that many to buy. So that's what we saw. And they normally bought, I'll give you an interesting statistic. The number of people using CMHC to buy a home. So it's a quick rundown on CMHC. It's under $1 million purchase price. And it's less than 20% down. There's a bunch of other rules, but that's really the gist of it. Okay. That used to be big. That used to be about 40% of all home purchases were CMHC, were people using less than 20% down. Because the house prices were a shit ton less than $1 million, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was a lot lower when I started in the business. So we always saw in the spring market in real estate was mainly focused on people buying with 5-10% down. Okay. Which is fucking vanished. It's in this whole country. In the whole country. Now remember the country, we just tend to think of the big cities, but the whole country is a big country.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's lots of places where you can still use 5 or 10% down, but they're not big cities. Maybe Edmonton. I don't know, but
yeah.
Okay, so that's important to understand. Important to understand that that's a big change. I was talking to some people who are experts at this, and it's probably down to around 12 or 13%, down from like 45%. Okay.
Shit.
Yeah. So it's a big change because let's face it, in the big cities,
Houses are not $1 million.
how the fuck are you going to make that work?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like the average home is $1 million.
Yeah. I mean, not
Average shoebox of a
yeah,
home.
like that's a big home. A friggin' like let's just say that there's the true dog crate in the sky condo, which is like 485 square feet, and honestly, and that might be in Toronto. I don't know, 550, 525. Okay, and in Vancouver, who the fuck knows? Okay, but a 1-bedroom condo in Toronto, Vancouver is still quite expensive.
Yeah.
It's under $1 million, but it's a lot of money. And here's the thing: when you have to qualify for this CMHC mortgage, it's tight on debt ratios. Like it really carefully watches your income versus your monthly payments. And with condos, there's always the condo fee.
Right.
It ain't just property tax, right? And property tax on a condo might be, $200 a month. But the friggin' condo monthly fee is like,
Yeah.
it could be anything from $450 to $650 to who knows what.
Yeah.
Okay. And that kills it. That kills people's ability to get a CMHC mortgage. I'm not pretending nobody's getting a CMHC mortgage, but that's a big issue. Like when it
Right.
was only just mortgage payment plus property tax and lower house prices 30 years ago, when that was 45% of all house purchases in the spring were, they were CMHC. That was different. But with condos, you throw that monthly maintenance fee in and all the debt ratios go off. Not all, but a lot of them go offside.
Right.
Okay? So here's what we're noticing. Here's what came up last week, and we just had a couple of really obvious things that hit us when we were looking at some of these files. When young people, and again, under 30, and in some cases under 35, want to buy a house in a big city, Vancouver, Montreal. We don't operate in Quebec, but I know it was just a meeting. We're talking to people from Quebec. And big towns, big cities, even Hamilton, Hamilton or Langley or someplace, like this town. And it's all parental assistance.
Right.
That's all we see. It's
That's the
parental
only way
assistance.
it's feasible.
It's the only way it's feasible. Okay. And that is an incredible change from when I started in the business. Like a parental gift was once in a while. Like it was one in every 6 or 7 or 8. Like people could, when you're buying a $300,000 property, you could save up $15,000. Okay. That's 5% down. Right. So, but that's all out the window now.
Yeah.
So you're buying a $600,000 and some odd property, but you can't do it with 5% down, or in that case, it would be a little more than 5%. But because you got to get the debt ratios to work too.
Right.
So and then parents often, here's what we were looking at last week: a series of situations where parents were not only providing the gifted down payment, but they're also being co-signers. And we had one amazing file last week where in the last 2 years, the parents had co-signed for 3 kids.
Holy
exactly.
shit.
So they'd given down payment for 3 kids. They provided gifted down payment for 3 kids. Oh, these parents are doing okay. I'm not worried about these parents. They're
Right.
fine. Okay. But
yeah.
and they made $1 jillion on their free and clear house, right? I mean, like it's up there. All right.
Yeah.
Because they just held on to the same house for 22 years. Okay. So things have gone really, really well. All right. They're in Toronto.
Yeah.
And they made good money. They're still working. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So 3 kids, 3 separate down payments. But now for the 3rd kid, even those ratios are getting weird, right?
Yeah.
Because no matter how much money the parents make, the kids make like, and in 2 cases, they were together, they were couples, okay? And in one case, but the one case where the sorry, there was one couple and then there were two singles, like two of the kids were single. Okay. And you just can't make enough money when you're like 30, right? You can't make enough money you need a cosigner.
Yeah.
Okay. So, because prices are so expensive.
Exactly.
So here's what we're up against. We're now, even though these parents make nice money, good, professional jobs, they've provided the down payment, so it's all 20% down, so you get a little bit of more wiggle room on debt ratios, okay? These ratios are just getting stretched, okay? Because the parents are now going on their third mortgage. They didn't have any payments on their own house. They didn't have a mortgage on their own home, okay?
Yeah.
But they're now going on their third mortgage, okay? What the fuck? Like, well, that's for the end of the show, but like, seriously, like they're not small mortgages, right? Now, by the way, these were not elaborate homes anybody was buying, but they're buying in the 6s and 7s. Okay, so that's not a huge place, right? I mean, they're condos mainly.
Yeah, of course.
So I think one's a townhouse. The original one was a townhouse. It was a few years ago. That was the first child it bought. Okay. But now if we're going for the third mortgage, there's like $1.5 million of mortgages floating around, and the parents are all the co-signers for like all of them. Okay. Well, Jesus, the numbers start to not work.
Gets messy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not illustrating it as a mortgage broker problem. I'm illustrating it as a batshit crazy house price problem.
Yeah.
Okay. And so and the parents very much want the kids to get in the real estate market, but as of course, the real estate market was really, really good for the parents.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the narrative of real estate in big city Canada. It's you got to get in because it's a guarantee for future wealth.
Exactly. And that's what we're raised on. That you have to buy real estate in Canada. And it's like, there's options to buy real estate elsewhere. Why are we all focused on staying here? There's many people who rent here and just have vacation homes or have homes down in Florida and they're snowbirds and stuff, right? Especially if they work from home, then they have that, right? But who also wants to pay $3,000 a month in rent?
There's that. That's the
right.
killer.
So it's kind of like, if you're already paying that, you might as well pay your own mortgage.
Again,
right?
you've hit on a great point because the rents are sky high in big cities. And even like smaller cities, like the rents in Hamilton are through the goddamn roof.
Yeah.
Okay. The rents in London, Ontario have gone up, I think, 35%.
Even in
like
Sudbury. I have
years.
a friend in Sudbury and the rent is high. And I'm like, you guys are like so far.
Sudbury, woohoo!
Yeah.
That is nuts. I mean,
Yeah.
Sudbury is no offense to Sudbury. We love you.
Just a little north for us. And those prices should not be Toronto prices.
No, and they should not be Toronto rents. Jeez, wow, God damn it. So, all right, so that's another nail in the coffin is that how do you save when you're paying $2,600 for a one bedroom? Okay, I'm on $2,600 a month for one bedroom. How do you save? How's that possible?
Yeah.
Once again, you need parental help. It's like an endless trap that keeps developing and growing and becoming more problematic.
And that's if you even have the option of parental help.
Yes, not everybody does.
Because not
everybody does at all. Not everybody does at all. Like
So-
I was illustrating the most optimum situation you can have, and now for the third child, it's becoming problematic for people who make great income and for people who have a free and clear house, and who have enough money to give to help with down payments for 3 different kids. Okay, and it's becoming tight now. Okay, like there's just not enough income for the price of the houses to make the mortgages work.
Right.
Okay. Oh, because here's one facet we've talked about before in the show, but we've got to keep coming back to over and over and over. If there's 3 people on a mortgage, they're all on for 100% of the mortgage. It's not like one of them owns a third of the mortgage. One of them owns, I only owe a third of the payments. I only owe a third of the payments. No.
You're fully strapped in for the ride.
You're strapped in so hard. Like you're so tight in the chair. Okay. Like it's joint and several is the legal description. And that means that if 2 quit paying, you pay. You
pay
pay 100.
for everyone, yeah.
You pay 100%. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and that's the way it's underwritten. That's the way you approach the mortgage math, as if each one of those people owed the whole amount. And like I said, now we're going to be up to like 1.5 million. 1.5 million, a lot of that. Eventually, that's $1 million here, $1 million there. We're talking real money, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm seeing in the spring market is, yes, there's a bit more activity. There's more activity than last year. For sure. We can just see it. I mean, it's just obvious. There is. It's more purchase activity. But it's for young people and even for everybody. It's stress. There's stress involved. There's like people like to say, well, the boomers, like we boomers are full of shit, right? We're not completely fucking full of shit.
I didn't say it.
But it's true. We are I got every fucking boomer. Well, if these kids just quit that taking trips to Cuba and eating that avocado toast, we had it hard too. Shut the fuck up, okay?
I worked hard. I should be able to have my avocado toast and afford a home, okay?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay, dudes out there, folks out there, boomers out there, shut the fuck up about how you had it hard too. The fucking price of the houses was so much less, okay? So
your 18% interest was peanuts.
Your 18% interest was on a $125,000 mortgage. Like, please fuck yourself. Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
there's some people with like student loans at that amount. Like,
exactly.
Come on.
Exactly.
Like,
okay. Seen a Carly's lately, boomer?
Yeah.
I mean, holy shit. I mean, like, come on. Anyway, on to off that topic that makes me mad at boomers, even though I am one, still makes me mad. All right. Couple of updates. We got the promissory note update. Remember, we try to cover this in every show lately. The ridiculous loss of what's looking like $100 million in promissory notes from a mortgage broker in Hamilton. So we got a few comments, and I've got a few other comments on social media that relate to, like, they're always mad about something. Everybody's always mad about something on social media, right? Like,
of course.
Always.
Social media.
Because then I'm always mad too. So it is called Angry Mortgage,
right? It is
right?
an angry show.
So it's an angry show. So we got comments of like, where's the regulator? What the fuck's with the regulator? What about the people who are supposed, what's the government? The government's supposed to catch this. What's going on? Okay, so let me explain. It's good. It's a reasonable question, but so promissory notes are not part of the Mortgage Brokerage Act. This is something just doing like on our own. Okay. Like, what about that? There's got to be somebody regulating that. Well, sort of. Okay. But here's the deal. Essentially all investigation, audit, there are audits. Like the regulator it's called FSRA in the mortgage business, provincial regulator. Also, the Ontario Securities Commission is involved in this because the woman was operating a MIC, okay, Mortgage Investment Corporation. So that's under a limited market dealership. So that's got some approvals through. So there's a couple of different regulators involved. But here's the deal. Almost all regulators work on a complaint basis. That's how almost all regulators work. Because guess what? We're just going to, just run around checking out random rumors. I mean, there's just not enough money. The government pisses away enough money without just, right? I mean, so you can't just be chasing random rumors or mortgage brokers tattletaling on each other, or like that's just fuckery. Okay, so consumer complaints is the key, and in this case, the payments went right up until December. So who fucking complains if they're getting their interest payment, right? Nobody complains if they're getting their interest. Now, some things are building up. Some mortgages have gone sideways earlier in the year, like, just after the summer and the fall and September. Some of the mortgages have gone sideways, but that's a situation where, okay, anybody who's in the private mortgage business anticipates that sometimes there'll be problems on payments. I mean, that's just, you're getting paid 9-10%. So it's not like it's a GIC in the bank for 4.5%, right? It's like, you got to expect some. And the idea behind private mortgages is there's enough equity in the house, so if the borrower misses a payment, you can commence legal action, seize the house, sell it, get all your money back. Right? It's straightforward a concept, right? So nobody was really panicked when a bunch of houses sort of went into power sale, but because always remember, they don't know each other, right? Those were individually written, okay? But all the promissory note payments stopped at once, and then all hell broke loose. Okay, that's when we started hearing about the story. It was in January. So what does the regulator do? There's several thousand mortgage brokerages in Ontario. You can't be auditing them all the time. And by the way, if you were the auditor of mortgage brokers and you went in and did a review at that office, you wouldn't even ask screw all about promissory notes. That's not in your department, right?
Right.
So here's my thing. The regulator does as good a job as it can, but maybe in some ways it doesn't have the right powers. Okay. For instance, we know of a evil-doing mortgage broker who got a huge front page story in the Toronto Star. Okay. This person was doing, I call him this person now because he like sent me lawyers letters when I named him. I got a bunch of lawyers
We're going to keep the names out of
that
it.
guy, we're going to keep quiet. But why I mentioned it is, and by the way, I think a lot of people know who the hell he is. Okay. But look, the thing is, the regulator goes after him, suspends his, does an audit, doesn't like what they see, suspends his license, and he hires expensive lawyers to get them to unsuspend the license because they're going to have to go through a tribunal. So if you've been making money through your evil doings, you could, like big money, like millions,
Right.
okay? You can afford to hire lawyers to fight with the regulator.
100%.
Like the best one of all was, I won't bother telling the whole story, but there was another big mortgage scandal called Fortress Development. This is going back about 5-6 years. And I was involved in that because I was sort of a whistleblower there. And they had the best lawyers in the world. Okay. The most famous lawyers in the world. Okay. Rose and Rose. Okay. Sorry, not Rose and Rose. Sorry. I got that wrong. I might remember, but it was one of the biggest. This was the biggest law firm in the world. It had the most offices and the most lawyers. That was their lawyers, not Rose and Rose. Rose and Rose are good guys. I know those guys. Okay. I'll remember someday, not today. I'm old. Okay. But when you have this, like whenever the regulator asked a question about what was going on there, like there was a meeting called and 4 lawyers walked in with huge, like they told me once, like it was like surreal, like there was 4 lawyers and 2 flunkies were bringing in like boxes and boxes of banker boxes to go through, like was it all intimidation, right? So now you might say, well, the government shouldn't be intimidated. Correct. Okay. And I don't think they were, but they can bury you in paper, right? Like they can, expensive lawyers can do that. They can just paper you to death to slow everything down,
right?
Okay, in their favor. Okay, so when people like to beat up on the regulator about bad situations like Ponytail Steve and the Maserati rule. By the way, Ferrari rule. Ferrari rule, right? Don't if your investment, if somebody's asking you money in an investment, they're driving a Ferrari and they have a ponytail, don't do it. Okay. So I'm at a meeting the other day. Italian friend of mine comes up and says, "Don't be bad talking Italian cars. We love those fucking cars. They should make up another rule, like make up a McLaren rule or make up a Shelby rule or some goddamn thing." I said, look, listen, Roy, relax. I mean, like, it's not my fault that everybody thinks Ferrari's a great car. Okay. You Italians can wear that yourselves. Okay. Like it's great. Like Lamborghini, Ferrari, you guys made some great cars that are very expensive. You got to own it, okay? That wasn't on me that you made those cars, okay? So leave it alone, all right? It was a joke, but so the guy with the Ferrari rule, Ponytail Steve, and Claire Drage with all this promissory note money that looks like it's up in smoke, okay? Like it's not just a walk in the park because the Mortgage Brokers Act. First of all, you can hire a bunch of lawyers to fight when the regulator comes after you. This is not unknown. This is constant, okay?
Right.
And the regulator themselves believes they must be careful to make sure that they're not falsely taking somebody's livelihood away from them. Because if you just walk in and start suspending licenses, like, yeah, we heard some bad shit, your license is suspended. Well, you can't do that.
That can backfire.
You can't take people's livelihood away without knowing for sure. Okay, so that's the update. For all those people who want to blame the regulator, regulator's trying, but this shit ain't easy, all right? It's just not easy. And now, what we really should be talking about is, should we change the act to give the regulator a little bit more power to suspend licenses during investigation? That might be something to think about. Okay, but don't blame the regulator if the act is what the act. It says what it says. Rate update. Okay, what's happening in the rate world? Just in the last, like literally a day or two, as we're going into the first week of March, we've seen some bond yield reduction. So it hasn't filtered through as lower rates yet. And by the way, rates are still down. Like they didn't really, when bond yields went up, they didn't all jump through the roof again. Okay. I mean, some conventional rates went up. But here's what's interesting. The Bank of Canada has been on a campaign called quantitative tightening. That's where they, when bonds mature, they just take them out of the market. They don't re-roll them. Okay. Canada bonds, Government of Canada bonds. Okay. So what's interesting is that they're thinking about stopping that program. I think they've announced the end is coming, and that's helpful to bond yields. Okay, that's helpful. So there's even some thought that a version of quantitative easing might kind of start again. Okay. Now, before I get everybody out there saying, what's this quantitative shit this fucker's talking about? Like, we don't understand that. Fuck it. Okay, let me make it simple. The central banks can either support bonds or help bond. They can either support them or they can try to curl them back or pull them back in. You know, so they've been pulling them back in, which tightens things up. But then they're even thinking about a very mild form of loosening up again, and those sort of rumors and discussions have impacted on the bond market. And bond yields they came down yesterday, fair jump. And now there was an announcement of our GDP. We've talked about that before on the show. Gross domestic product. That was a pretty good report the other day. But more and more people are noticing that individual per capita GDP is going to rat shit. Okay. If your economy grows 1%, but your population is growing by 3.4% a year, that's fucked up, right? Yeah. I mean, like, the people are growing, the number of people are growing 3.4%, and the economy's only growing 1%. Somebody's getting fucked. Yeah. Okay. Somebody's going backwards. Okay. Yeah. And that's becoming more and more evident. So it looks like, and then finally last week, all the banks reported their profit and loss. The banks never lose, but they reported their quarterly reports came out, and provisions for credit losses, provisions for loan losses increased everywhere. Wow. So that's the bank saying, we think people have started, because this is not just the first time they've increased these loan loss provisions. This is the assumptions that people are going to quit paying and the loans are going to go bad. Very few mortgages, actually, mostly credit cards, car loans, stuff like that. And the banks are saying, yeah, we think that's going to keep growing. We posted higher numbers the previous quarter. We posted higher numbers the quarter before that, and now we're posting them again. So what does that tell you? I like to make things simple. If more people have stopped paying their bills, I think that means shittier times.
100%.
Okay? Yeah, that's all it could be, right?
If you have to choose between putting food on the table and paying your bills, obviously you're going to feed your family.
Exactly. So when I look at these things, these are lousy things, right? Those are kind of bad things. But by the same token, they also mean that bond yields will come down, and so will mortgage rates. So again, it takes time. We're not going to see any Bank of Canada. Bank of Canada, people are listening to this on Tuesday. Bank of Canada announcement is coming up. Nothing happens. There's no change. Like, there is not going to be any cuts. There's no cuts. There's no increase. No cuts. So no cuts in March at the Bank of Canada. This is not a prediction. This is a fact. It's a fact, folks. Okay, it's a fact. All right. So let's talk. We got viewer questions. All the viewer questions, I think, this week are about people buying houses, right?
Yeah.
Like stuff like
they are.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, so this first one says, my mortgage broker says that my aunt can't give me a gift. She's my only aunt who never married and has no kids, so she treats me like her kid. Why is this a problem? It's a gift. Someone's mad.
So yeah, it's a gift. It's a gift, fuckers. Okay. Look, there's rules around gifts, and in some companies, in some situations, aunts can be fine. I mean, you can normally make that work somehow. Like, you look. What's this whole story of gifts? Like, why do banks care about gifts and down payment? Why do lenders care about gifts? It's like this. It's anti-money laundering. We got to make sure that people aren't money laundering. Like, it's not really we just call her auntie, but really she's mostly what she does is sell fentanyl. You know, she's anti-fentanyl. Okay, like so we're trying to guard against what they refer to as straw borrowers. So what a straw borrower means is that somebody's buying a house and they are sort of clean. They have no criminal record. They have no background. They're like a sort of very clean front person. They buy a house, get all this down payment money from people who aren't clean. Okay. And then later on, the house is sold. There was a big one of these in Vancouver just about 2 weeks ago. I got a $3 million house, bought, sold, and it looks like the down payment was really dirty. But once you sell the house, that money's been cleaned. Like the proceeds of that sale are clean now. Okay, there's this is wild. A lawyer in Vancouver got her license pulled for the second time. Like, she just kept on doing it. Like, she got her license pulled. She was suspended for a while. They gave her license back, and then she did it again. Jesus Christ.
She didn't learn.
No, not learning. These aren't learnings issues, okay? She is a crook. It's as simple as that. She's a crook. She's working with criminals. So, all right. So, in some cases, there are restrictions, particularly with CMHC, with low down payment houses. Low down payments create more diligence. And, you know, in some cases, the bank's also worried that it's not really, like, if your parents give you money, your grandparents give you money, your siblings give you money, that's a very easily understood family relationship. Immediate family. Yeah. Okay. That's easily understood. It makes sense that there's gifts there. But when it starts to get way out into distant family, okay, is it really a loan, right? That's the other question you got to ask. Is it really a loan? So there's ways to manage that. I don't think that would be a big problem, not in our brokerage, but, you know, yeah, that's where it comes from. Got
it. Okay, so this one says, our bank is okay with using the money we got at our wedding as a down payment, but my mortgage broker says it's hard for them to use it. Why would this be?
Well, the one thing to understand clearly is when you're working with your bank, your own bank, the bank you have your checking account with, they can see everything, right?
Right.
I mean, they have all this digital record of all the history of money come into your accounts, all right? So they could probably tell the date you got married, because obviously there was a person added to the joint account. I mean, like, there's a lot of ways to or name change or whatever. I realize people don't always change their name now, but still, they have ways
They'll see the large transactions.
And they see the large transactions. They see the money going out for the reception and everything else, or for the honeymoon.
Exactly.
And then they see some money, a few days later, some money comes in where you collect up all the envelopes. And by the way, if it's a lot of cash, you had to fill out those forms in the bank anyway, right? So the bank has a very clear line of sight on, we can absolutely tell by the account activity that this sure as hell looks like it's money coming from a wedding. People give you gifts, okay? It's a lot harder for them. The mortgage broker they need a lot more documentation. Don't get me wrong. We get those kind of things in our company all the time, and we know how to present it to the lender, and we really don't have problems with that. Okay, but I can see that a less experienced mortgage agent or mortgage broker, it might sort of throw them off. Okay?
Right.
Like, let's face it, I've been doing this, it's headed for 3 decades, right? Yeah. So you have lots of managers here in our company who've been around for a long time, and we know how to manage this problem. But some agents don't know. Like, some agents are newer, and they encounter it, and they just don't know how to handle it. So, but yeah, you can manage it, but that's the reason. The reason your bank is often easy peasy with down payment is they can fucking see everything you do.
Yeah.
They got your account, so they know everything. That's it.
Okay, this one says, my mom and dad have to go on as co-signers, but they're worried about taxes when the house is sold someday. So they're worried about the tax when the house is sold. My bank said this is no problem, but I don't understand. Can you give me an explanation?
Sure. I think what the bank is assuming is that you probably, like, there's a way to set it up with a lawyer is how the title of the house is held. So when it comes to the taxes that people are worried about, they're mainly worried about capital gains. For instance, your parents have of their own house already, and that's their primary residence. And CRA knows that. They know that's their primary residence. But when they're on title, because they're co-signing, in many cases, banks require you to be on title when you're a co-signer. Sometimes a guarantor is fine, but sometimes it's not. So they would require the parents to be on title of the house. And then the lawyer, for the real estate lawyer, would say, well, whoa. if you're on for 50% of the house, parents, then when the house is sold, you got to pay tax on capital gains if there's profit on the house. Your child doesn't have to worry about it. Your son or daughter doesn't have to worry about it because that's their owner-occupied residence. No capital gains on owner-occupied residence, primary residence. But if it's the parents, that's not a primary residence, it would be viewed as something else. And there would be capital gains implications. The good news is you can just put the parents on for a tiny, tiny percentage of the title, maybe 1%, maybe less than 1%. Okay. And when it's that low, even if there is some profit on the house, it doesn't turn into an issue for the parents. It's just because 1%, like let's say that you was $100,000. Well, 1% isn't much, right? You can pay the tax on $1,000, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a couple $100, so
Yeah.
not a big deal. So that's the answer there. It's really about capital gains tax. That's how that works. Okay. So come to our favorite part of the program.
What the actual fuck?
And we got a good one
Oh
this week. 'Cause
my
I am
gosh.
so fucking mad about this. And it's funny, sometimes, like I said, I was at a meeting last week of a bunch of mortgage brokers from across Canada and a bunch of lender, insurers, service providers, great bunch of people. It was a great meeting, fantastic. Really was great. It was one of the very best I've been to. So it was in Montana in February, right? Like you wouldn't expect that to be a great place to go, but it was absolutely terrific. It was a famous dude ranch. I don't know if that's a thing. We got to call it some kind of resort now. It used to be people used to call
Dude
it dude
ranch.
ranch, but I guess that word's just faded. But anyway, it's really good.
Did you dress the part?
Yes, they asked us. So I said to them, I said, okay,
Yes.
so they provided the cowboy hats.
Yes.
Good, which is good.
Good.
Okay, I don't want to buy a cowboy hat myself. But they said, no, you got to wear your either your sort of. I bought actual cowboy shirt, like the checked shirt and stuff. You know what I'm talking about.
Plaid?
Right? Plaid,
Yeah,
whatever.
okay. You wore plaid?
I wore.
Do you have pictures?
Yes, there are pictures. I'm trying to suppress them, but they are pictures.
I
okay?
will do my research.
You do your research. Yeah, I look like a version of a huge fat horse's ass. That's for sure. Not a cowboy, a horse's ass. But they were so kind and put on such a great event that I said to one of the vice presidents, I said, Dick, you realize I'm in this shirt now, right? Oh yeah, it's great. Thanks for wearing it. I said, yes, but when I go home, I'm throwing it away. I'm giving it to the Goodwill. It's going from my suitcase to the Goodwill. I am never going to wear this again. So everybody laughed about that. All right. So what we were talking about, when I brought up, I was talking to some of the people in there, people from across Canada, successful people, very successful mortgage people, and extremely smart, capable executives in these lending companies, service companies, mortgage insurers. And some of them actually haven't heard about this horrible fucking disaster, which is this fucking Arrive scam, okay? Arrive scam. You remember when COVID was running big? We had the Arrive Can, right? Yeah. It was this app that never worked properly.
Yeah.
If you went back and forth out of the country, it was all fucked up.
It was.
And we talked about before, I think we mentioned on the show before, that it looks like it went from a budget of $80,000 to $2.5 million. And then it went to 60 million. They fucking spent 60 million on this piece of shit thing that didn't work. We don't use anymore. Okay?
Yeah.
And then it looked like it was just two guys got it. Like it's like there's two guys sitting in a house. The address of the company is a house. Okay. Right. And they got it, and they got the contract, and they didn't do any of the work. They just subbed out the work to somebody else. Outsourced the work to somebody else. They did nothing. Kept charging, change orders, charging more, 60 million gone. Well, fuck me. Last week, all hell broke loose. Okay? They've done this before. These two fuckers, and yes, you sick the lawyers on me. I don't give a fuck, you bastards. Okay? These two sons of bitches have been doing this for years. Okay?
And one of them's a D&D
One of them was an employee of the fucking Department of National Defense.
Disgusting.
Okay? That's actually against their rules. You can't, maybe he was a contractor. Shut the fuck up. I mean, it looks like they've stolen $400 million from the taxpayers.
What's so questionable is that, how did the government say, oh yeah, you have to build an app? Here, I don't care how much it costs here. Why was this not questioned?
How about this? These fuckers who don't build, I don't think they can code, these two fuckers, okay?
You're not even software.
They have been doing these
nothing.
apps for all over the government. They've been doing doing app work, doing contracting for apps for Indigenous affairs. They've been doing contract for the Department of National Defense, which they're fucking part of. One of them's fucking part of, you fucking son of a bitch, okay? Like, and they maybe $400 million worth, okay? And always the same thing. Two-person company working out of a basement, outsourcing all the fucking work and shitty work to boot. So
Fucked up, man.
I've been pushing this along in social media, and here's what you find out. You get a lot of comments, anonymous comments and replies. Oh, yes, I've done contract work for the government. You just bid, and who the fuck knows who really wins the bid. But then you just keep submitting change orders. The government might say, well, can you do this? And you got a $2 million contract. And the government said, can you do this on the app? Yes, we can make that change. Great. Go ahead. Okay. All right. So then it's a $2 million contract. We charge $4 million for the change, and they just sign. Fucking government's a gang of fucking idiots. Now, look, before I finish up, and I'm going to finish up, and I'm just so fucking mad, but looks like $400 million just fucking stolen from us taxpayers. And we're the most taxed fucking people you could ever, income tax, GST, the government's got their hand in our pockets at all fucking times, okay?
Literally.
Now they're pissing this money away, wasting this money. It's all a fucking scandal. But I want to quickly say, because everybody says this that I talk to, oh yeah, Justin Trudeau got his powers of the piece of that. No, he did not. He did not. Okay, there's just like the actual ministers are not getting paid off by this shit. But what is going on is total fucking stupidity on the part of the fucking people who run the government. Like
1,000%.
The politicians don't look at, they look at, like, maybe the finance minister looks at a budget for the whole fucking country, but the politicians don't look at these contracts and these bids. They have nothing to do with it.
It's small food compared to what they're dealing with.
And they're not involved. That's not their jobs, okay? But what is their jobs is to make sure the fucking public money is fucking guarded carefully. And that is so fucking obvious. I don't think politicians are stealing, but they're so fucking ignorant that the rot in the government is so fucking bad that two guys in their basement have stolen $400 million fucking dollars.
They're allowing the theft right under their nose.
And then the comments kept coming in social media. Oh yeah, I know about that. Yeah, you put in a change order, everything gets covered.
Nothing new.
Oh yeah, nothing. No. That happens all the time. Everybody knew about this. What the fuck? Everybody knew about this? Yeah, everybody in the contracting business knew about this. And then one reply was, yeah, everybody knows about this. I might have done it too. Fuck me, that's ridiculous.
Fucking hell.
Like unbelievable. All right, so what the actual fuck is wrong with you? Government of Canada, smarten the fuck up. Call in the cops. Just fucking arrest these guys. Fuck it. They stole our money.
To jail.
Fuck them all. These guys must go to jail. Go get them. See you next week.
See ya.
If you like the pod, well, don't just sit there. Go to YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and all the other ones and like the pod. And don't forget to subscribe so we can keep being angry at mortgages and swearing about mortgages. Angry Mortgage could use your support.